Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our presentation today on securing your legacy, creating a lasting impact through planned giving. We're excited to tell you about all the different options that you have available to you. With us today is, my name is Sonia Clements. I'm the Development Coordinator for Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association. We'll hear from Sarah Krieger, who is our CEO, and we will also hear from Will Schrickerath from Hills Bank. So today's agenda, we're just going to go through here. We're going to talk a little bit about what is planned giving. And then will share with us the charitable giving strategies that Hills Bank will highlight for us. Sarah will go over who we are as Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association. And then we'll do a quick wrap up, and there will be time for questions during the presentation. So please feel free to take some notes and come up with anything that you might want to ask Will after he's all done. So with that, I will go ahead and talk about planned giving. Planned giving is a way to reflect your values and support a cause close to your heart. This helps us make a lasting impact in the community for years to come. All right, and we'll introduce Will Schrickerath. He's going to give us the lowdown on this.
All right, thanks, Anya. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you taking the time, as we were talking about before we got started. Very important topic, good things to know. I mean, may not always be timely for everyone, but it's good to have these things out there and know what the strategies are. So, as Sonia mentioned, I work with Hills Bank and Trust Company. I'm a trust officer there, so I'm one of the folks that mainly deals with trust and estate administrations after people pass away. And in doing that, we see a lot of these different strategies, I mean, during people's lifetimes as well. But some of the things I'll talk about happen after you were passed away. So just a quick picture of our team, other Hills Bank information there. All right, so I'm going to run through just a few of the common ones that we see, and then some of the more in-depth ones. So there's qualified charitable distributions, donating appreciated assets, donor advised gift funds, and then lastly, the different types of trusts that you can create. And I'll share a little bit on how they work, but it's likely you're going to want to meet with your attorney to get the real ins and outs, and if you're thinking about doing that type of planning. I always like to start my presentations with a quote. So from the author Miriam Beard, the results of your philanthropy are always beyond calculation. It's beyond just the dollars that you give. It's the people that you help, the workers that you support, all those different things that really make a difference. First, what is a charitable donation? A charitable donation is a gift of cash or property made to a nonprofit organization of 501c3 to help accomplish its goals, for which the donor receives nothing of value in return. So no tickets, no other freebies. It's giving the money to give to them, to let them do with it as they please, not expecting anything. We use these qualified charitable distributions often. Now, when people are thinking about making donations, a lot of the time they're thinking about writing checks, having money drawn directly from their checking account, just giving money directly to the charity from their own funds that they hold in accounts that they have direct access to. These qualified charitable distributions are a wonderful tool for any individuals over 70 and a half who have retirement account assets. There's both taxable advantages, and you get the advantage of giving money to your charity of choice, right? Now, what are the potential tax benefits? So qualified charitable distributions are excluded from federal and state income tax. So you don't have to include these distributions from your retirement account as income to you on your tax return the next spring. Potentially, it's going to lower your adjusted gross income or your AGI, therefore either getting rid of the taxation on your Social Security payments or reducing the taxation, and potentially mitigating the Medicare high income surcharge. So if you have too much income in a year, they charge you more, you could potentially lower those expenses to yourself. And then you also get this tax benefit without having to itemize. As we all know and have felt since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was passed, it's a little harder to itemize. It's great that we have a larger standard deduction for each individual, but it's taken away some of the incentives into charitable giving, those types of things, because you're not getting the same tax benefits you were. So this is a great way to get a tax benefit on top of that wonderful standard deduction that we're getting. Now, what are the qualifications? So as I mentioned, anyone over 70 and a half who has these retirement funds can do a qualified charitable distribution. For someone who is required to take required minimum distributions, if they've reached that magic age, they can use qualified charitable distributions to count towards that required minimum distribution. So if you don't need those funds, don't want to have to take that extra income, have charitable intent, you can use those funds for this purpose. You can give up to $108,000 in qualified charitable distributions in 2025. It was $100,000 last year. It's going to keep being adjusted for inflation. You just have to keep in mind that these donations need to be made by December 31st in order for it to count during that calendar year. And the charity must be a 501c3 organization. Now, as I mentioned, working at Hills Bank, we do a lot of these for our customers. Keep in mind that it's not going to likely show up on the 1099-R that you'll receive the next spring that you made this qualified charitable distribution. You'll need to keep a note, give that to your tax preparer, and make sure that they deduct it from your income on your tax return the following spring. So just a quick example. Say Sally has an IRA with a $10,000 required minimum distribution in 25. She wants to donate $1,000 to her favorite charity like she's been doing year over year. What she can do is she can direct her financial advisor to send a check for $1,000 directly to that charity, and then take the other $9,000 in required minimum distribution. She'll only have to count the $9,000 that she actually got as income, and she'll tell her CPA that the other $1,000 for her RMD went out as a qualified charitable distribution. That's enough on QCDs. So strategy 2 is donating stocks and bonds. Now, likely if you're thinking about QCDs, gifting money, gifting larger amounts of money, you've probably been investing for a while. You have some assets that have raised in value and have a large capital gain. So what you can do is you can take those appreciated assets and gift them directly to a charity. The benefits are you won't have to sell the asset and realize the capital gain and pay the tax on that. And potentially, based on the amount of the gift, you could get a tax advantage on that as well, whether it's over your standard deduction or whatever it may be. So looking at the gift here, say the current market value of the stock is $10,000. If you give a cash gift, the income taxes saved are, this assuming you're in the 37% tax bracket. You save income taxes of $3,700 if you just gift cash, because that's a $10,000 deduction if you do it that way, if you itemize. If you gift the stock that's appreciated, you get both the income taxes saved because of the deduction. You also save on the capital gains taxes that you would have had to pay if you realize those capital gains to pay cash. So a bigger tax savings for you there. The last of the easy ones is donor advised gift funds. So again, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act made it hard to gift smaller amounts each year. What the donor advised gift fund is good for is really bunching your charitable distributions all into 1 year. So say you gift $1,000 a year. If you have cash or appreciated assets of $20,000 and you want to set that all aside in 1 year, you have the ability to do that, and then direct whoever the manager of the donor advised gift fund is to give that money out over time. So you can still do that $1,000 a year, but you can bunch all of those distributions into 1 year to get a bigger tax savings. Hopefully that makes sense. Things with the donor advised gift fund, these contributions are irrevocable. Once you gift the securities or the cash to the fund, you can't get them back. It's going to be used for charitable purposes moving forward. You can give cash and non-cash securities. And then, like I said, it's a great way to bunch these deductions. It's also a great tool for when you have a high income year. So if you're selling a farm or a family business, or you're doing a large Roth conversion from your IRA, those are large taxable events. If you want to offset some of that income, bring your tax burden down for the year, you can use some of the funds that you received, make a large gift to a donor advised gift fund, and have a large charitable deduction for that year. And then, like I said, spread it out over the next however many years you want to do that for. So just a quick example for this too, Jack and Diane are age 60. They typically give $10,000 a year to charity. Standard deduction for an individual is $15,000. So married filing jointly is $30,000 in 2025. The only other itemized deduction they have is $10,000 in state and local income tax deductions. Say Jack and Diane gave their regular $10,000 to charity this year. They only have $20,000 of itemized deductions where they have a $30,000 standard deduction. They're still gonna use the standard deduction. It's great that they still made their charitable giving, but they didn't get any real tax benefit from it, right? Now, say they wanted to bunch 3 years together, gave $30,000 in charitable donations to a donor advised gift fund, told their advisor to send it out in $10,000 increments over the next 3 years. And then they had that extra $10,000 of tax deductions, like I mentioned, they have $40,000 to deduct that year. Instead of the $30,000 standard deduction, they can itemize and owe a little less in tax for 2025. So good news for them, good news for their 501c3s that they support. Now, if you're looking at this versus a private foundation, here's just some quick information about how they each work. For most individuals, a donor advised gift fund is going to be a lot simpler. It's going to be, whether it's gift in cash or appreciated assets, the limits on the gifting and what you can deduct are different. They're a little higher for donor advised gift funds. Donor advised gift funds don't take a whole lot of work to set up. You just reach out to your financial advisor, see if they have one, or another financial institution. There's lots of folks that do these around. It's just a simple form that says, I'm gifting this much, do with these assets. This is what I want you to do with these assets. Private foundations are a lot more involved. You have to make certain distributions each year. You have to work with an attorney to create a new legal entity to do this foundation, hold board meetings, all of these different things, have a real plan for what these assets are going to do. So that's usually very large donations that are looking at private foundations. But donor advised gift funds are wonderful tools for people who have a decent amount of assets that don't want to have to do all of this extra planning for a private foundation. And then we get into our advanced strategies. So I mentioned before that if we're getting into these, you're likely wanting to work with your attorney and your CPA to make sure you know what all of the tax implications are and planning implications are. So there's really just a couple that I like to mention, both charitable remainder trusts and charitable lead trusts. Charitable lead trusts are on the next slide here. They're very similar tools. It's really a matter of timing and how the assets get to the charity. So for charitable remainder trusts, what you're doing is you're setting this large amount of money to the side. It can be appreciated assets, whatever, a farm, whatever it is. During the lifetime of specific individuals, whoever you list as your beneficiaries, they're either going to receive an annuity payment, so a certain dollar amount for the rest of their lifetime, or a unit trust payment, which is a percentage of the assets held within the account for the rest of their lifetime. When that beneficiary or those beneficiaries are all gone, have all passed away, the remainder of the assets are going to go to the charities that you have listed in the document. So there's going to be a partial tax deduction you get on based on the value of the assets. The deductions are difficult to figure. That's why I said you want to work with your CPA. But this is also great for farms. If you know your family doesn't want to farm, send it to this charitable remainder trust. They can sell it. You don't have to realize a large capital gain because it's in this charitable entity. Your beneficiaries can receive payments for their lifetime, but a big portion of the money is going to go to the charities after they were to pass away. And then charitable lead trust. So it's really just the timing on how the assets get to the charity that's different here. So very similar, like I said, you're donating this appreciated asset to a charitable lead trust. The charities are getting that unit trust or that annuity payment during the specific lifetime of some beneficiaries or a certain amount of time, at which time the term ends, it's going to go to the remainder beneficiaries, whether that's kids, family, whoever else it may be, whatever you decide there. Now, I know I go through those things pretty quickly. So are there any questions from you all? Any things I missed? Any thoughts?
Go back to the charitable remainder trust.
Yeah.
And just, it was, you make the contribution and then you leave people.
Yep.
Yep. And then those folks are at their demise. Is that correct? At their demise.
It goes to the charity at their demise.
Their demise.
Correct. Or you can do a certain term for these as well. If you want to say it's 20 years, if they live longer than that, otherwise at the last beneficiary's time to pass. And these don't have to be set up during your lifetime either. I administer some where a person has a large IRA, for instance, and they have charitable intent. They don't want their beneficiaries to have to withdraw the entire amount over 10 years. So what they can do is they can leave this whole IRA to the charitable remainder trust. It makes certain payments to those beneficiaries. It's still going to be income to them, but they don't have to withdraw the full amount in 10 years. They get a lifetime income stream, at which point when they pass away, the rest of it goes to charity. So
Is there any combination, or you have to do a percentage, or is that up to the donor?
it's up to the donor. Yep.
So you could give 10% to the charity.
Oh, what do you mean?
So I'm just wondering, okay, you make this contribution.
Mhm.
Is it 50% that goes to the kids, and then?
So it's just the income stream that goes to the kids. So if your kids are the beneficiaries,
Yeah.
whether you're leaving them, say you want them to receive a $10,000 payment for the rest of their life, or the 5% of the account value for the rest of their lives, they just get whatever those payments are. At the end, it's all split between charities. That's the way those have to be set up.
Which is of the two, which are more?
I see a lot more. It really depends on interest rates and where they're at. I've seen a lot more charitable remainder trusts while interest rates were low. I think people are probably leaning more towards the lead trusts now that interest rates are high. It's all a timing thing and what assets you have and really what your goals are. We administer both. Yeah. There's no going back. Right. Yeah.
Can you combine the first two things that you talked about? In other words, the required minimum distribution, can you do that and put it into a donor advised fund?
That's a great question. So qualified charitable distributions cannot go to a donor advised fund.
Okay,
They have to go directly to a 501c3 nonprofit.
okay,
So if you're looking at donor advised funds, those are appreciated assets held in a taxable account or other appreciated assets, I guess, is really what you're looking to do.
and the donor advised fund, I understand the bunching concept, I think. So let's say I wanted to give it kind of your example, I wanted to give away $10,000 a year, but I was never getting a tax deduction for that because I wasn't bumping up high
Right.
enough. So I instead give more, but I give it to a donor advised fund. So let's say your example was $30,000, right? So then I'm getting a tax deduction in year one for the $30,000. And the next 2 years, when my donor advised fund is paying those charities, I'm not getting any deduction, but the charities are getting their money over that time.
Correct. With the donor advised funds, you're really just looking at the bunching to have a larger deduction in 1 year, at which point you can take advantage of the larger standard deduction in the years after that. That's really what you're trying to offset, trying to make charitable donations, but make it make tax sense for you, bunching them together. Then in the years after that, you can take the $15,000 standard deduction.
And donor advised funds include like, we here around town, sort of the Johnson County, there's a community foundations, those are donor advised funds, like,
So donor advised funds, I don't know if they have a donor advised fund. Hills Bank has a donor advised fund that
Okay.
we manage for a bunch of individual customers. And we invest the assets according to the investment objective that the customer wants us to. And then obviously take the direction. It's usually investment firms.
okay.
Maybe the community foundation does. You should check with them if that's of interest to you.
I didn't see that.
Okay, then maybe Johnson County does too, if Cedar Rapids does.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Thanks. But that's all I have. I'm going to. Oh, round of applause. Wonderful, thanks. Next, I'm going to invite Sarah Krieger, the CEO of Iowa City Hospice and DNA up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, for your sage advice and information, and thank you to Hills Bank for allowing Will to come and do this and for providing us lunch. That was very generous. We appreciate it and the many ways that they support us and our community. So Will has told you how to give, and I am here to convince you why you should consider Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association. So Iowa City Hospice, and the Visiting Nurse Association, we meet that requirement of being a nonprofit. Our mission is to provide the Iowa City Hospice mission is to provide high quality, compassionate care to people in our community at the end of life. And really, some words there that I think are important to focus in on is one, our community. This is when you're giving to Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association, all of those funds are going to support people in our community. We're community owned. Will is one of my bosses. He's, on our board. So it's the funding is going to support your loved ones, the people that your neighbors. And it creates that lasting legacy of support in our community. What is hospice care? It's really a commitment to patient comfort. You may hear people say it's giving up. We don't look at it that way. We look at it as a different type of care that people need at a time in their life. It specializes in providing care that increases quality of life. While we may not be able to add days to your life, we pride ourselves in being able to add life to your days. And we address a holistic approach of physical, emotional, social, and spiritual needs, because there's a variety of needs that people have at the end of life, and it's such a great opportunity to bring all of those things together. It also, hospice focuses on not just that patient, but it's all of the people that are involved with that patient's care. So their family, their friends, their neighbors, their loved ones. Oftentimes it's also, different caregivers, maybe hired caregivers. It could be a nursing home or an assisted living. We go wherever the person is, wherever they may be. And our goal is to support that entire caregiving unit. And it's available to people who have a terminal illness or are not likely to recover. Sometimes people think that means, oh, it's just cancer, but actually there's many different reasons that somebody may need hospice care. Dementia, there's heart failure, breathing issues. Hospice is not just for people with cancer. It's for anyone that they think could pass within 6 months. This is our hospice team, or at least a portion of them. We have up on the top, I guess it's your left. No, it's your right. Our music therapists, Emmy and Rhonda. So they use music to treat things that I'm a nurse. We nurses may use medicine. An example of that, I had a patient one time that she just would never rest. I couldn't get her to rest. And our music therapist said that every time that she went to see that patient, the patient sat down and went to sleep. And to me, it was just miraculous, because we had tried every medical intervention that we could. And these music therapists, they use music to do things that we can't touch a person in any other way. So we have a full spectrum of caregivers and clinicians, physicians, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, nurses, aides that help the patient to meet their basic needs of, helping them to get cleaned up, maybe changing their bedding, keeping the house clean and organized to some extent. And also it helps to offload some of that responsibility off of the family and sometimes the facility as well. Our social workers, they help with the emotional side of this and knowing what to anticipate and dealing with some of those emotions of the person themselves who is passing, but also the family around them that is anticipating the loss of their loved one. They also are experts in knowing what resources are available in our community, and they can help caregivers to connect with resources to help them to be successful in caring for their loved one. Which, if you've ever had to care for somebody, you know how stressful that can be to find the help that you need. Our chaplains are non-denominational spiritual counselors. They're there to support people wherever they may be in their spiritual journey. In no way are we trying to convert somebody into some religion or another, but there's a lot of meaning and questions about meaning that can happen at the end of life. And our chaplains help our patients and families to explore that. Our bereavement counselors are available before the person passes and also after. They're actually available to anybody in our community, free of charge. So anybody who's experienced a loss can get support from our bereavement counselors, but they are exclusively, they're focused on the families of loved ones who have passed for the 13 months after that person has passed. So they are intentionally reaching out to them, letting them know about the support that's available. We talked about the music therapist, and then we have an amazing group of volunteers that just do just about anything you can think of. They will go shopping for people, walk their dog, clean their kitty litter box, because we have a program called Pet Peace of Mind that is really focused on helping that person to keep, sometimes it is their most valued family member with them through the end of life or for as long as we possibly can. And they actually will, can help to facilitate an adoption so that the person will be able to meet who may someday take their loved one, my babies, I got my babies. So I think that's so meaningful that they'll know who's going to take care of their animal after they have passed. Our volunteers, they just spend time with people and listen and are able to be present with people during this hard time. Our service area, don't let the name fool you. We serve more than just Iowa City. So we serve Johnson County and then all of the counties that touch Johnson County. Although most of our patients are in Johnson County, we do want to fully serve all of these communities. So now we have another arm, which we're really excited to have partnered and merged with the Visiting Nurse Association, so we can truly serve people from birth to end of life in our community and helping to keep people safe, comfortable, and have dignity in their homes for as long as possible. So the VNA is really focusing on people that could be, we have babies that are just coming out of the hospital. We have actually more and more babies recently that maybe they just were born early and they need just a little bit more support when they go home, to the elderly that, maybe they've broken a hip or had a knee replacement. And they just need a little bit more support in their home to get strong, to adjust to whatever that situation is, to help them to stay safe at home. So the VNA, our mission is to improve health and well-being by providing healthcare services to people in their homes and throughout our community. And again, that community focus is really comes back in that when you give to the Visiting Nurse Association, that money is going to benefit your friends, your loved ones, you someday, hopefully. And so that that any money that you're giving is staying within our community. The home health team, the visiting nurse team, we have a full therapy department. So physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. I call it the trifecta. So they will help people to get stronger, to learn how to use new, like if maybe they have a new equipment or maybe they need new equipment and they need somebody to help them to know what they need. Sometimes it's just hard to know what you need. An example of this, so I've worked in the hospital and in home care, and when I worked in the hospital, we would sometimes send patients home with a walker. And I was on the receiving end of that one time, and the hospital was like, well, why aren't they using their walker? Well, what we found out was the walker was too wide for all of their doors. So having an occupational therapist go into that home and do an assessment, we were able to realize, well, it's not that they're being non-compliant. It's just that we need to come up with another solution to help them. And that's really where home health can come in and provide solutions and ideas that it's difficult to know what to do unless you're actually in the home with them. Our nursing department helps people to maybe they need some medication adjustments, wound care. They provide the amazing wound care and helping people to heal at home. We also have social work that can help people with setting up. We do like durable power of attorney, helping them again know what resources are available outside of the services that we provide. The same thing with the home health aid and the homemaking services. Again, they're focused on helping people to stay clean and healthy and be at home and safe for as long as possible. And these are some of our amazing staff members. So the beautiful lady opening the door, that's Corey, our occupational therapist. And we hear frequently that she is just the light of many of our people's days, because sometimes our staff are the only people that somebody sees that day. And it's nice to bring joy to people in that time. And then Christine and Fran has been with the Visiting Nurse Association. I think we're at 47 years. So she is a wealth of information for all of us. So I hope that you will consider, when the time comes, Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association for your planned giving. There are many worthy nonprofits in Johnson County to give. I know that we've been on the receiving end of giving, that maybe there's several nonprofits that are listed. And we appreciate any portion of that we can give, because it allows us to ensure that we are going to be here for the foreseeable future. And one thing that really makes Iowa City Hospice and the Visiting Nurse Association special is that we serve everybody. We serve everybody on the hospice side, regardless of their ability to pay. So if somebody has no insurance or they're underinsured, they receive the exact same care that anybody else would. Medicare is kind of the gold standard when it comes to hospice care, and they receive the exact same care regardless of their ability to pay. And the VNA, we accept patients that other agencies can't or won't accept. So patients who are on Medicaid, patients that are on Medicare Advantage, because with both of those payers, we lose around 25% for every patient that we accept. But somebody has to take care of these people. These are our neighbors, these are our loved ones, and they need that support. And if we don't help to keep them healthy and safe in the community, they're going to end up in the emergency room. And there's so much that we can do outside of the hospital to keep people safe and healthy. Oh, I just said all of that. So there you go. So thank you guys so much for coming here today. We appreciate your time. I know how valuable time is these days. And does anybody have any questions right now?
So is there a vetting process for VNA services? So let's say you have a neighbor that you think might
Sure.
benefit.
So the question was, is there a vetting process to access VNA services? So yes, same with hospice, there's certain criteria that we have to follow. It depends on the payer. There's, different criteria for Medicaid versus Medicare. And then there's also certain criteria as far as they have to be homebound, or do they have a skilled need? And it's actually quite complex. I've been in hospice for a couple of decades and then joined into the home health realm, and it's much more complex on the home health side, but we have experts in the office that can help you work through each of those things. And we just want people to call us, and we will do that hard work of vetting. We will talk to the doctor. We will get the orders. All we need is somebody to open the door for us to be able to connect with them. And if they don't qualify for our services, there's still maybe other things that we can connect them with to help them. That's something that we're really focusing on as an agency. Is people may call us and maybe we don't have a service to serve them, but they still have a need. So we're working to really understand what are the other resources in our community, because we have a plethora of nonprofits and services in Johnson County. So we're working to understand all of them. So if we don't have something, maybe we can connect them with somebody else in the community that can help them. So please have them reach out to us. Anybody can make a referral. It doesn't have to be a doctor. People think, oh, my doctor has to make that referral. Absolutely not. You could make the referral, and as long as you might want to tell your neighbor that you're calling, you don't want to maybe get that surprise call, but anybody can call. We just need somebody to open the door, and then we can take it from there. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. That's all I've got to say. All right, now I got to figure out how to turn this off. I guess we'll be recording for a while. I don't know. There's lots of food, so please at least eat more. How do I stop the recording? There it is.
I don't know who the number one is. I know we have